Welcome to the Trecena of Bats, the Trecena of the monkey, the weaver, the artisan, and the thread. I will be speaking on the forecast for April 13th through the 25th, according to the Maya Cholq'Ij count of time and Western astrology. Thanks for being here. Let's start with a prayer to honor the Nahuales and the planetary bodies we will be speaking on today. So I invite you to close your eyes, take a nice deep breath in, centering yourself in this moment, connecting with the heart space. Heart of the sky, heart of the earth, Rukushka, Rukushuleo, hearts of all beings. Thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for this beautiful Trecena of bats. Thank you for this beautiful observation of time as we are welcoming the Nahuales and we are soon to begin a new 260-day count. Thank you to this Trecena of bats. Thank you, Abuelo Bats. Thank you to the monkey. Thank you to the thread that weaves all together, that weaves all time. Thank you to the Nahuales that are present through these next 13 days. Un bats gae oshi ach gae ish og sikin oaki achmak wuku no washaki tihash beleheko wak lahu achpu hulahu imosh kablahu ik Oshlahu Akabal. Thank you, abuelos y abuelas. Thank you, grandmothers and grandfathers. Thank you, sacred Nahuales, sacred aspects of our existence that walk with us, that guide us. Thank you for being here. And may I be a clear channel and messenger for you to anyone who comes and seeks your guidance and wisdom. Thank you to the heavenly bodies that we get to observe and honor and cycle through with, from our beautiful Mother Earth to Father Sun, Grandmother Moon, to our sacred messenger Mercury, sacred lover Venus, sacred warrior Mars, our great guide Jupiter, our enforcer of boundaries and time Saturn, great liberator Uranus, cosmic dreamer Neptune, and planet of death and rebirth and the evolution of the soul, Pluto. Thank you to the asteroids and the comets and all the moving parts of these beautiful cosmos that we get to be a part of in a grander tapestry. Thank you to the ancestors, and thank you to this ancestral wisdom and ancestral observations that we see from all over the world. Ancestors that observe the night sky, observe the natural world. Thank you to the indigenous who have preserved these sacred traditions. Thank you to the people of Guatemala and the land of the Quetzal, the land of the condor, the land of the eagle. Thank you to my teachers, Tata Izaias, Nana Izabel, Tata Walter, Tata Mark. Thank you to the fire. Thank you to your teachers and all of the teachers who passed down their wisdom, the elders, and may we all walk this path knowing that we are future elders and future ancestors, and to treat this life with dignity, respect, and honor. Thank you. All right, so we've just completed the Trecena of Tihash, the Trecena of the Obsidian Blade, the Trecena of the Smoking Mirror, and we had two back-to-back Trecenas, and that's always going to be the way that we cycle through. We're going to have the Trecena of Khan and then the Trecena of Tihash. And that is a 28-day period that can be rather intense. When we look at Khan, the serpent, symbol of transformation, of our power, but also can be the manipulation of our power. So we come now to Bats. We come now back to the beginning. And this is an auspicious Trecena because we're going to be moving through the 20 Nahuales, coming to 8 Bats, which is considered a very auspicious day in this count. It's the human new year, not the agricultural new year that we celebrate in the middle of February of the Ab calendar, the Cholq'Ij. So this is a time of great celebration, of honoring the creation of the human, the creation of our humanity. And there are many ceremonies and celebrations that happen in the lands of Guatemala at this time. As well, when we come to 9 Bats, this is a very sacred and special day for women. It's the creation of women, and it's the honoring of the life-giving properties that a woman has, right? She brings spirit into matter. through her womb. So Bats is a an auspicious energy because it is connected to the creation of life. It's connected to the umbilical cord, right? That connection between mother and child, but even more so the connection between us as children of a greater cosmic force, a greater spirit, and our energetic umbilical cord that we have to this greater life force of that moves through all things, that animates all things. I have the Living Maya cards, and this is their card for Bats. Beautiful. As you can see, it has the monkeys on it. Bats is connected to the artisan and the music maker. During a Mayan fire ceremony or Cholq'Ij, when it's time to honor and give offerings to bats, usually there is definitely a song or a dance where everyone will stand up and move your feet back and forth and bring your shaker and your drum, because that's an offering to bats, right? Like making music and making art. So it's a very creative day sign, especially if you're born under bats. And as well, it is the guardian of the weavers and the ones who work with the textiles. We look at what I'm wearing here. This top is called a huipil. This is a traditional Guatemalan huipil or top. And with the huipil, there are stories that are preserved within the huipil. There's tradition within the huipil. So this huipil has some of the day signs on threaded in here. You will have different colors of the huipil representing different villages. There's a core traditional pattern of colors. Even just a couple towns over, like you go to Santa Cruz, they're going to have three main colors they work with that are going to look different than going to San Marcos La Laguna. So it's a really beautiful way of having this textile show where you come from, like where are your roots, but also they will have within them stories. They will have quetzales, the birds. Other huipiles will have corn. The color means something. What is woven in means something. The pattern means something. So everything is very significant here, especially during the time of conquest and the time of colonization. These huipils were ways of preserving stories and preserving the culture of the people. So it's a very important traditional top to wear. And if you go to Guatemala, if you go to southern Mexico, the tapestries, the textiles are so beautiful, so colorful. It's beautiful to see the women working with the backstrap loom, and there can be singing, there can be prayer that goes into the huipil, that goes into the textiles as they're being made. Bats can also be like the monkey, childlike, playful, and a little bit mischievous at that. So don't be afraid to get a little creative, get a little messy, smile more, laugh more during this Trecena, especially after coming out of the intensity of the past two Trecenas and this eclipse season that is wrapping up. And there's a lot changing and moving forward astrologically, especially this week as we head into Taurus season. A few ways that we can honor bats during this Trecena are to look at the ways that we shop, especially for textiles and fashion, letting go of fast fashion practices and buying into fast fashion, supporting local textile makers, supporting your local artisans, a great way to honor bats, and supporting your local musicians, your dancers, your artists, your theater actors, and production crew. So if there's any way that you can support, even going to a show or buying a handmade gift for someone else, wonderful way to honor bats. Also supporting children during this Trecena of bats. So giving back to children through a community organization, especially an organization that's dedicated to teaching and fostering the arts in children, could be a great way to honor and respect and give back to Abuelo Bats. And as always, making a beautiful cup of cacao and sharing it with Mother Earth, making an offering outside, giving back to her, honoring her creativity and her fertility. Since we are counting the 20 Noales in their order until we get to 8 bats, the start of a new count, a new 260-day Cholq'Ij count, I very much recommend, if you can at this time, to observe and welcome each Noel as it comes in. You can head over to Mayan Wisdom Project. They are online and on Instagram, and they are going to be welcoming in, it seems like, each energy that is coming in, each Chumil and Noal, as we count towards 8 bats. So you can get to know the Noales in order at this time and dive a little bit deeper. Some highlights I want to point out during this Trecena of bats, if we're going to look at the astrology, we're still coming off of the back of an intense eclipse season and a total solar eclipse on Monday, April 8th. We had that challenging Mars Saturn conjunction on April 10th. And Mercury was just reborn in the heart of the sun. It's called the Mercury Cazimi. It's a start of a new synodic cycle, as it's the inferior conjunction, right? Because it's Mercury retrograde conjunct the sun, not Mercury direct conjunct the sun. So there's a lot that's been going on, especially in this past week. And things could still feel like they're not falling into place quite yet, having some technical issues, having some redirects, some pivots, while we're finishing up this Mercury retrograde, which will finish on the very last day of this Trecena, April 25th. So hang tight. There are a lot of moving pieces, I feel like, until we get to May. And we have one of the most important astrological transits of the entire year happening during this Trecena as well, right? This is the most active, I would say, astrological time of 2024, when I was looking at it back in January. And that is the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So Jupiter is expander, bringer of blessings, hope, faith, optimism, teaching. But then we have Uranus, which is about liberation, rebellion, independence, freedom, great leaps forward, shocks, and surprises. So these two coming together, you can think about Jupiter expanding the influence of Uranus. And it seems like there could be great leaps forward here for us, especially when it comes to Taurian concepts of agriculture and earth, and could be some shakeups to our financial systems. And then you also want to look to your chart and where you have Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo, especially around that 20-degree mark. You might feel something percolating from this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So that is definitely big news for this Trecena. We have a couple more eclipse point activations coming up with Mercury and Venus. And as well, Taurus season is going to begin on April 19th. So we are coming into the sign of the bull. It's the second sign in the zodiac, leaving Aries season, leaving the sign of the ram. A little bit of an intense one this time because we had that eclipse Mercury retrograde double feature. And now we come to Taurus season, which feels a little more on steady ground, give or take. We'll see. With that Uranus in the mix, might not feel so steady as Taurus season hasn't for a few years. But it might slow down a little bit. Maybe a little bit more time to stop and smell the roses here. And as well, the blooming and really height of spring in the northern hemisphere. So I always love Taurus season. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Venus will be in Aries, and then she's going to be popping into Taurus by the end of the month. So that's going to be really lovely. I love what's coming up in May and June. Just feels a lot better than January through April. And Taurus season is really about stability and getting clear on a foundation, right? Like hard work, but it's also sensual and pleasurable. So the work feels like play, and really finding that balance between those two at this time and enjoying some of the fruits of life a little bit more sensually. Good food, good wine, good company, right? Like in the northern hemisphere, the weather's starting to get really much nicer. So enjoying the height of spring and everything that's in bloom. All right, so let's jump into some of the key days of this Trecena. On April 14th, we welcome Cholq'Ij, a day of choice, of polarity, of crossroads. on our path. Is connected to our sakbe, our sacred path. And the moon is making a crossroads as well. So definitely a crossroad day of maybe sitting down and thinking about our choices and thinking about distinctive paths. Some of us are definitely feeling some forks in the road at this time and taking that very seriously on this day. When the moon is squaring the nodes, right, we're activating again some of that eclipse energy. Also, might feel a little bit emotional at this time. The moon is in Cancer. So, Cancer moon is, she's in her home sign. We might feel a little bit cozier, wanting to stay at home, staying close, uh, connecting with family, connecting with mother, and uh, taking stock of where we're at right now after a few very energetic weeks, right? Like the weekend is here and it's time to just like sit and think about, okay, what all just transpired? How am I feeling? Do I need to have a good cry? I kind of feel like I need to have a good cry, but I'm a Cancer moon. So I'm always due for a good cry every few weeks at least. Um, so yeah, if you're feeling a crossroads on this day, it might be good to just sit down and sit with that, even if it's just for like 10 to 15 minutes, checking in with your heart. Okay, what's coming up? Where do I want to go? What's not feeling right anymore? What am I having maybe a reality check on that Mars Saturn conjunction brought up? On April 15th, we welcome Cholq'Ij. Now, this is a day of action, of leadership, of standing firm, getting strong and tall in the present moment. Is the reed cane and our staff of power. This is an important day to point out because we have Mercury retrograde making a second conjunction to Chiron. And that's happening right where the eclipse happened. So at 19 degrees of Aries. We might have some wounding, healing, sensitive conversations that come up around this time on the 15th. As well, the moon will be making an opposition to Pluto, right? Because the moon's going to move into Leo. And then right there at the early degrees, makes that opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. Moon opposite Pluto can bring up some spiky feelings, feelings of distrust, feelings of um, loyalty versus betrayal sometimes can come up, like paranoia with Moon Pluto, but also diving deep, like getting really deep into some of those emotions, which I know it's a Monday, it is Moon Day, and a lot of people get back to their workflow. So just have some grace on Monday. Could be a few little speed bumps going on Monday. On April 17th, we welcome 5 Sikin, a day of feeling empowered to look at the bird's eye view. This is the day of the eagle, the quetzal, the condor. And we have Venus in Aries making a conjunction to the North Node around 15 degrees. The North Node is expanding and magnifying Venus, Venusian themes of love, creativity, finance. Venus might also be feeling that sense of opposition, right? Like she feels sometimes when she's moving through Aries. She's not feeling as much cooperation with others around her as she might feel in Libra. So this could really feel magnified at this time. Like there's challenge that's happening around the cooperation of your money, of your relationships, of your artistry. So give it some time. Let's see how things continue to play out because obviously there's been a ton of activation in our Aries house in our chart. And then Venus will move into Taurus. And I think that will be helpful for a lot of people when she moves in at the end of the month. And then we're going to have to wait and see how she connects with that Jupiter Uranus energy towards the end of Taurus. I'm very intrigued by that. So just a heads up for the future later on in May. On April 19th, we welcome 7 Noch. This is a day of awakening the mind and our intelligence, connecting with our mental prowess. And we have Mercury making a beautiful conjunction to Venus. And this is a day where these two coming together, I like them coming together. There may be some more charming conversation. Things may be going a little bit more smoothly. Now, we could look at this two ways. We could look at Venus smoothing out, maybe bringing some benefic help to Mercury, who's retrograde, or Mercury brings some miscommunication and brings a little bit of its mercurial chaos to Venus on this day. So you'll have to wait and see how this plays out for you, but you might want to bookmark it, Mercury conjunct Venus. And then as well, we have the sun entering Taurus. So for about 30 days, we will have the sun moving through the sign of Taurus, leaving Aries, the cardinal initiation of fire, landing into the sensual, soft, feminine Venusian lands, fertile lands of Taurus. It can be stubborn, fixed. So there's more consistency, a little bit more steady ground as we move through Taurus season and we get back into that earthy flow with the sun. On April 20th, we welcome 8T hash and we welcome the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. Wow, 8T hash. Remember how I said 8 bats is auspicious? There's an auspiciousness even for ceremony on days of 8 because it connects the totality and the infinity of all, as we even see in the symbol of the number. We have the pyramid of the count of 1 through 13. So 1 being the beginning, 7 being the end. It's at the top of the pyramid, and then we work our way down to 13. And 8 holds this significance. There is justice and karmic responsibility to using the blade correctly. And I'm even getting like this, like, oh, the tool of rebellion, the material tools of rebellion may come forward at this time, and tools of the earth that liberate more people, that bring more equality to people, hopefully. It's on the positive. Jupiter Uranus could also heighten and expand the earthquakes, natural disasters, and I'm even feeling like it could expand some of the climate change that's currently happening to get us to wake up, to jolt us out of our slumber of needing to implement changes, needing to implement technological innovation in order to offset all of the change and all of the carbon that we've put in the air and the misuse of resources that have gotten us to this point of climate catastrophe and ecological degradation. So these are a few of the themes that could definitely come up with this Jupiter Uranus conjunction. And T hash is like, humanity needs to cut the cord on things that do not work, that do not serve Mother Earth, that do not serve the relationship between human and Earth, and human as guardian of other creatures, helping as well with Earth. So very potent day on April 20th. On April 21st, we welcome 9 Kawak, an incredibly feminine day, 9 being the 9 moons of gestation. Kawak is the turtle, the midwife. There's the connection to, again, the moons and the cycles of women that we find on the turtle shell. And on this day, we have Venus making a conjunction with Chiron. So again, activating on this day that eclipse point that happened conjunct Chiron, that total solar eclipse on April 8th. Venus is coming here to maybe point something out in a helpful way, I'm hoping. Fingers crossed. There could be some relationship themes that come up on this day. And as well, the sun, after right moving into Taurus, is going to make that square to Pluto. So sun square Pluto can also be a rather intense time. It's like our ego, the way that we shine, the way that we view the world through our personal consciousness is challenged by the intensity and the life and death scenarios that Pluto can bring. There's a depth, there's even like a fear that could come up at this time, like, ooh, I don't like that. I want to not maybe look at that. And life is like, no, you got to look at this, sun square Pluto. And there's, again, now there's this tension of the fixed signs, sun in Taurus, Pluto in Aquarius, like who wins out? Because both have this stubbornness to them, both have this stability to them. And there's a challenging force that comes in. So especially look out if you have anything at those first couple degrees of the fixed signs, you're definitely already feeling Pluto's influence, but the sun will trigger the conscious connection to what Pluto's been brewing underneath even more so around this Trecena because the sun's moving into that square position for a bit. On April 23rd, we welcome 11 Imosh. This could be also quite an energetic day. It's the day of the water, the crocodile, the dolphin, the whale, connecting with Mother Ocean, connecting with Mother Water. Great day to bless the waters. And 11 brings us choice and crossroads. So remember how I said that 2 on the 14th was bringing that energy up of crossroads? This one has that as well, and also is bringing again like some emotional flavor because we find the moon back in a water sign, this time the deep water of Scorpio for the full moon. So we have the full moon in Scorpio, sun in Taurus. This is happening at 4 degrees of Scorpio and connecting with the Pluto square, right? So that when we have those three connecting in this way, right? The opposition of sun and moon, and then we have Pluto at a 90 degree to both, that's what's called a T square. So it's like even more friction, dynamic, tectonic plates that build up their friction and tension, and then something snaps and breaks away, and we have an earthquake. That's a little bit of that T square energy, right? And the moon, it feels crunchy sometimes in Scorpio. It doesn't feel resourced as well as it wants to in Scorpio. It feels challenged. It feels sometimes a lack of safety. So this full moon in Scorpio again, right? We just had the new moon in Aries ruled by Mars, connecting to Saturn and Pisces, and now we have our second Mars ruled moon that always comes up right after that usually, the full moon in Scorpio ruled by Mars, still in Pisces, but this time Mars is connecting with Neptune in Pisces. So very different flavor than Mars connecting with Saturn, right? Saturn's like reality check, cut your losses, challenging thing came up, you got to pivot. If you were looking at it with rose colored glasses, time to take it off and look at the reality. Was not fun. This full moon with the connection with Neptune is definitely a little bit more dreamy, a little bit more ethereal. There might be a little bit more fog, maybe even some confusion that comes in. But since Neptune is really in its power position in Pisces, I feel like it's going to influence Mars more than Mars is going to influence Neptune. Now, this can also be about feeling unsafe, feeling attacked, feeling a sense of disloyalty, conflict that comes up, but you can't figure out the truth of the matter yet. You can't figure out what is really happening quite yet because of that Neptune fogginess. So it's good not to advance in attack or impulsive decisions around this time. You want to wait till Mars kind of leaves that territory and even the moon moves off from the heightened potency of that full moon in Scorpio until it gets into Sag and then into Capricorn. And then it's like, okay, we can like assess the facts. So when the moon gets into Capricorn in like 4 days after that. So just want to give you a heads up. That full moon usually is rather intense, right? And it connects back to the story of Taurus and Scorpio, which connects to Persephone and Hades, right? Like she's leaving in springtime her underworld realm and coming back up to earth to be with her mother, Demeter. But always we should know, like the queen of spring and the beauty that we have with spring, like is juxtaposed by her journey to the underworld, and that both are interconnected. We can't really have one without the other per se. There's an initiation into the dark. So very moody, but also can feel very seductive and interesting and in depth around the Scorpio new moon. Also a great time to do some divination and ritual and candles. Always great to pop into that during Scorpio and like connect with the deeper pools within us. The last day I want to talk about in this Trecena is April 25th, 13 Acabal, a potent day of duality, of honoring the sunset and sunrise, of honoring the light and the shadow within ourselves. It's a great day to welcome Acabal and honor Acabal by catching a sunrise or sunset if you can, soaking it up in the present moment. This is the Noel of the Bat. Interesting, on this day, we have Mercury stationing to go direct in Aries. So it will now be moving into post shadow, traversing back to 27 degrees of Aries and beyond. And on this day, Mercury is conjunct the North Node. So a sense of maybe some faded conversation, expansion of a conversation that is part of the greater Mercury retrograde story that you've been a part of for this time. So even thinking back to March 18th, all the way to now, some of the conversations that were happening prior to this might have a review and a revisit around this time. Mercury then, in a few days after that, will hit that eclipse trigger point again at 19 degrees of Aries. As well, on 13 Acabal, the moon will be hitting the trigger point of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. The moon is still transiting the sign of Scorpio since it had that full moon right at the beginning of its visit here. And now it's heading towards the last 10 degrees of Scorpio. Will be interesting to see if anything kicks up or picks up that relates to the Jupiter-Uranus meetup around this date. Definitely feels like something is afoot on this day, like an event or something that shifts or changes, moves forward, or you get new information that changes the way that you're seeing something, especially if you have anything between like 12 to 18, 19 degrees of Aries, Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, and then as well between like 18 to 22, 24 of Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius. I also want to point out that Bats is seen as an auspicious day to hold a marriage ceremony, which I think is really beautiful if we're thinking about the creation and the threading, and we think of our lives as a tapestry and we're weaving our tapestry with another person's tapestry, right? We're two tapestries become one and we create a family. And we look at the end of the Trecena of Bats connects to Akabal. This is the duality. This is the yin and yang, the sun and moon. This is very much a Noel that is connected to partnership. So over these 13 days, we do feel the threadings of connection, of partnership, of duality for those who are in partnership or those who might be looking for one, or maybe you're just wanting to be single at this time and not looking for one. And this is more about the connection of your inner duality, your inner masculine and feminine, your inner polarities that could come up and be something that you would like to meditate on or reflect on or inquire within more so. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm looking forward to next time when we're talking about the Trecena of Gat, the spider, and we're welcoming in a new Cholq'Ij 260-day count, the Cholq'Ij New Year. If you like what I'm sharing here, I would love if you would share it with someone else or a few friends you think could benefit. If you could give me a subscribe and a like, tell me what you enjoyed in the comments, tell me what resonated, tell me what didn't. If you are interested in diving deeper into your own Mayan Noel or your astrological chart, you can schedule in with me at Hands of Mercury. I do have limited scheduling at this time due to some other life things going on, but you can always follow along here. I have a bi-monthly email newsletter where I go more in depth with astrology, human design, with Mayan Cosmovision, and really break down our new and full moons and share some other offerings. So I would love to connect further. And wishing you a wonderful Trecena ahead and a beautiful start to Taurus season. So exciting. My birthday is coming up in Taurus season, so I'm looking forward to celebrating and enjoying some of the Taurian sensualities. Looking forward to Venus entering Taurus. And until next time, cheers.